Okay, so now we can squeegee everywhere that we had it. So that's what we're gonna do now. Is just kind of squeegee the rest of this air out. I'd say that went pretty good. That debris was not ideal, but the good news is with a satin film, you know, you're just not going to have that many issues. If this were gloss, it'd probably look a little bit messy over there. You have some glue lines, probably could have more debris. So you have to kind of pick and choose what you do. That was a big piece of debris. That was not just like a little speck, that was a big piece. You know, it could have been a piece of wood, could have been a piece of whatever. But that, in my opinion, kind of had to be taken out. You heard me kind of say it, you know, we kind of got everything fixed on this body line. You're going to want to do that on pretty much every panel. And it gives you, it kind of splits the panel into two pieces. So you work up from here and you work down from here. If you get bubbles or anything in here, you lift from the bottom and pull them out. If you get bubbles or anything like that up here, you lift from the top. So that's really what it is. It's just kind of like, you know, if you get a bubble down here, you're obviously not going to pull the entire thing up from here to get to it. So it's just a way to kind of segment the panels to make it a little easier on yourself. So I'm going to squeegee all this air towards over here. All right, so we got a bubble here. This one's pretty good size. I'm actually going to pop this one. Diabetic syringe. Just barely come in here. And just kind of tap it. And then you're going to gently get the air out. Hit it with heat, and you're done. I'll put a link to these in the description. I think this was something that I missed. But you're going to want to have syringes or some type of air release tool. They have actually dedicated air release tools. But that's something that can happen. Air can get trapped. If it's a big bubble, sometimes it makes a lot more sense to pop it. Whether you're doing a Tesla or something else, you're pretty much almost always going to get this little bit of slack right here. So we're going to lift the film off and shrink this down and set it down. And all you have to do is just gently pull down. Another speck of something in the film. Got it. Continue to squeegee. Another fucking slip on the film. Got it. Alright, so I got air trapped again. So we want to go in here and basically just do what we did last time, just pop it. Try to pop it. There we go. All right. Squeegeed. It's pretty good. This isn't too bad. Debris not, not the end of the world. The film at least looks good. Do a little bit of damage control real quick. Okay, so here's how we're going to do this part, guys. We want to warm this area, kind of get all these wrinkles out and kind of see when they go away. And then I kind of just like start, kind of form it in a little bit to this area. Once you get it formed in, you can kind of come here. You just want to gently form it in. That's it. While we're here, I'm going to heat this edge a little bit. Kind of shrink the film. You want to work away. We want to kind of work away from the corners again. Try to get that kind of hook sort of logic that we talked about. Get it to kind of hook around that back edge. And we're just going to set the lines here. All right, so now the squeegeeing is done. So let's get into the details here. This looks great. Even though we had to lift the film, that's what's kind of nice is as long as the film has not been like stretched with heat, you can usually lift it up. Even in an area there, like where we had gloved it, we were still able to kind of lift it up. That's another thing that's good about 3M. Probably wouldn't have been able to get away with that with KPMF. It discolors very quickly. I'm just pulling this off the tick because again we're going to pop the hood, which sometimes can pop the vinyl up with it. You're not going to be able to get in on the passenger side, so you got to go through the driver's side. Not too bad. Let me get this off. Alright, and then we're going to lift up the hood. Like so. Peel this over. Alright, I think that's going to be our best vantage point for you guys to see this. Alright, and then the idea here, what we're doing now is we're going to have to roll this into here. Okay, we're basically squeegeeing down into here. So I want to tuck this up here, and it only needs to go down about that much. So once we get through that much, what I'm going to do is make a cut. I'm going to make a cut like this, right here. Hope that makes sense, but basically I'm going to cut around this so that the hood is no longer really in our way. So I'm going to make a little U-shaped cut. So that's what I cut out, little V, little U. Now what I can do is I can push this down, and now the hood is not going to be, now the vinyl's not going to be stuck on the hood, and I can get it down here easily. Let's clean this up a little bit. You can see there's too much slack here. If I was to try to squeegee this now, we're just going to get wrinkles. And we're going to be fighting wrinkles, and eventually the film is going to get overstretched. And if we're having to fight the film to smash it down in here, it's going to fail over time. It's going to pull back. So what we want to do is we want to use the heat to kind of take out, to shrink it just enough so that hopefully we can glide it down in here. So we're going to start about 1 inch from here, because we're going to need to heat this on our own, so I don't want to heat this just yet. So we're going to start about 1 inch away from the corner and work all the way up, and we're just going to kind of heat this. And hopefully you can kind of see this slack just kind of go away. And basically what's happening is that the film is shrinking into the area that we want to wrap. Which, as you can imagine, is exactly what we want. So, and that's really the main principle to understand with vinyl. Vinyl has memory. If you stretch it and you let it sit down, it's going to want to go back to its original shape. That's just a property of the material. So when I cold stretch across this curve, right, because you can see this is basically a curved area, so I stretch across here, which causes the film to kind of want to bunge up here. But because I've stretched it, now when I go to heat it, we get this real, like, look at this. See how this is hugged in here now? Remember we just had all this slack, and now I've got tension here. I can hit it like a drum. You can actually hear it. And that's exactly what we want. So once you understand this, every single thing that you wrap is going to be easier because you cold stretch and then you shrink. Or if it's a major curve, you hot stretch, you heat stretch, and then you shrink even more. But you need to kind of understand this because it'll make your life a lot easier. So now that we've done that, and this is all shrunk in the way that we want it, let's go ahead and just kind of start in the center. We're going to work our way out. You can use a glove or a squeegee, but I like to just kind of, and again, we're working away from the corners. Part of why using a glove is nice is, because you could obviously do this with your finger, but like if I slip, I'm not going to scratch the panel. And that has happened. I've nicked or scratched the panel with my fingernail more times than I'd like to admit. It's the absolute worst. So if you're doing anything where you're having to push with your finger on the film, maybe consider putting the glove on first because you can go south pretty quickly. So now you can see that this just goes in. I'm not having to heat this. I'm not having to pull on it. It just is literally. It's just going in, just feeding in. So nice. Sometimes vinyl is super satisfying. The fender is definitely more challenging than the hood, definitely more challenging than the doors, but it's a really good teaching panel because we have to do so many different techniques: knifeless tape, feeding, stretching, a lot of different cutting, a lot of different shaped corners. So you can see that went down super easily. And we just need to get it to the knifeless tape. Make sure all this air is out of this gap right here. Air loves to just kind of chill in there. All right. All right, guys, let me get my chair. Now what we're gonna do on this corner is a little bit different technique. It's called a cut and fold. And usually you'll do this on corners that are kind of thick. So this is kind of a thick corner. In order to get this without a cut and fold, without it pulling back, you probably have to have the hood open. If you do a cut and fold the right way, it looks perfect. And I'll show you kind of what happens here, what it looks like. So in my opinion, I would much rather do a cut and fold here versus trying to get this perfect and not have it pull back, because that's the thing. In order to get, this is a big chunky corner, in order to get the right amount of tension around the back of it and have it not pull back, you have to get a decent amount of stretch. So if you don't do that right, you're gonna have issues long term. So in my opinion, I feel like it makes more sense to do a cut and fold here, and I'll show you what this looks like. So a cut and fold is just like it sounds. We're gonna make a cut, and then we're gonna fold the vinyl over top of each other to make a small overlap. So how you wanna do this is you're gonna basically cut at a 45-degree angle away from the corner, and the piece that is the bottom of the overlap, you're gonna cut shorter, and the piece that's the top of the overlap is going to be longer. And see if I can make that make sense. So I'm gonna get my light on here. So the corner's right here. I'm gonna cut so that this part's shorter because we can kind of pull it this way, and then this part we can kind of pull over. And I'm gonna basically cut right at the bottom of the corner. So now we have kind of like a fork like a forked tongue. Now what I want to do is I want to get in here, pull this down, use some tension. Pull that down. Okay, now the top usually helps to kind of just warm this a bit. Kind of shrink that down a little bit. Now we're gonna pull, and you guys will see kind of where you need to push to get the wrinkle out. And if you do this right, it's 100% invisible. If you do it pretty good, you have just the tiniest little, just the tiniest little overlap that you can kind of see. With this film, it's going to be very impossible to see it, but let's kind of, all right. So I'm just going to cut this real quick so I can kind of show you what it looks like. So if you do it right, it looks super clean. And in my opinion, it's much more durable. So that's a cut and fold. There's a couple spots in the car where we do them. Now that we have everything over the knifeless tape, I'm going to go ahead and shrink this again, because it doesn't hurt anything. And then it kind of just lets me know that we got this down here with no tension and everything looks good. Let that set up for a second. All right, knifeless tape 101. Let's get into it. I get a lot of comments from people that seem to have issues with knifeless tape. So let's see if we can simplify it. Knifeless tape has a filament in the middle of it. This is what's actually going to cut the vinyl. So you need to get this started. The easiest way to get this started is to have the film stuck down like it is here, roll it over on itself, and then you're going to kind of want to pinch, not 100%, you're not going to cover it 100%, but cover it like 75%. Push down pretty hard, and then with your right hand, you're going to kind of wiggle it until it separates. Wiggle and pull until it separates. And now that the filament is separate, now we're ready to go. So once we get to the vinyl, we're going to want to do kind of the same thing. We're going to put our finger down to pinch it down. This time we are covering 100%. And then we're going to pull to get it started. And then once it's started, then we just pull through relatively quick. More importantly, relatively straight. We want to keep this perpendicular with jump it down a little bit on this one. That wasn't totally down back here. Not a big deal. All right, yep. And then so I just have to clean this up by hand a little bit. And then pull perpendicular to the tape. This is the end. Come in with the knife. Just gonna cut. See how bad that messed us up. It didn't really mess us up at all. And the most important thing is you want to get these, you want to pull these strands out. There's going to be 2 strands left over. One of them came off right here when I pulled this. You can see it kind of right there. That came off when I pulled this off, and there's one left behind. So we want to get this out. Okay. Let's take a look at my mistake, see how bad this is. You guys are going to get to see it before I do, but we want to go in here with our finger or our glove and just get this down. Step back and take a look. It's not too bad. And it's honestly going to be below the frunk line. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to cut on the car for something that is honestly within the acceptable range, and it's going to be hidden by the front, so I'm not going to risk cutting the paint for something like that. You do want to post heat this area, so you can do this with a thermometer. It's the right way to do it, or kind of been doing this a while. We didn't really stretch this, so 3M is not the type of film that's going to really fail in small recesses like this, so I'm not 100% worried about it, but you do want to get in here, get a nice post heat on this. You're gonna look if you have movement. So if you're in here heating and you see the film start to pull back and form wrinkles, you're in trouble. Okay. So if it's forming really sharp wrinkles, you probably overstretched it, and your only option is to either redo it or cut a strip of vinyl, maybe like a 1/2 inch by 4 feet, and just come in here and run the strip over the edge that's failing. You know, kind of force the wrinkles down with your squeegee and then cover it up. But ultimately, if you've got really sharp wrinkles in here, there's not much that you can do. So when you heat this, you want this to stay put. That's how you know that you're going to be okay and that it's going to survive. I'll try to zoom in on this next thing. You can see the janky. See, it's not that janky. It's a little janky. This part's tough to cut. You do not have great access in here at all. So I don't have great pearls of wisdom here. You just got to kind of do what you can with what you got. The rest of this you can get with the hood down. So let's go ahead and shut the hood. Peel this off. Peel this gently. Don't just rip it off. I want to make sure that we're not peeling the vinyl up. Understand that this tape is going to stick much more to gloss than to satin or matte. So if you're doing a gloss job, keep that in mind. Okay. Hard part's done, guys. That's the hard part. Let's zoom back out. Okay. Let's see. We'll do that last. All right. Let's focus on cutting. We're getting the rest of this done here. Yeah. Let's do this. I'm so excited to get this video out, guys. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while. A lot of you reach out and ask if you can, come out or if I do classes. A lot of Tesla people seem like they are, really like to do the DIY thing. So I'm hoping that this is exactly what you guys need, Alrighty. This area in here is a lot less It's not as bad as it looks. It looks crazy. It's not bad. This corner, let's just make sure that we're. So this corner, you don't have to do a cut and fold. What I like to do on these is I'm going to kind of heat this area, and then I'm going to gently just kind of pull away from this corner. The idea that if I'm pulling away, it's creating tension on the back of this corner, which is what I want, because I want the film to hug around the back. Now we're not stretching it around the back because then it'll fail. We're just pulling over here, and the consequence of pulling over here is that it increases the tension here, which is what we want. So something like this. Okay, I'm going to kind of pull it away. I'm using my thumb, and I'm going to work away from the corner. Slowly just going to gently push them through away. Same thing on the other side. Okay, that's done. Knife. Go right under the tip. And that's done. Same thing on this one. Here. And I'm not pulling while I'm heating. That will cause the film to rip. I'm just holding it off. I'm using my thumb to form this basically around the corner. Come around here and do the other side. So you can see effectively kind of what that did. Now it's wrapped. All right. Okay. Not too bad. I'm going to make a relief cut. So how do I explain what a relief cut is? So if I want to tuck the film in here, so notice when I push, see how much tension we have here? So a relief cut is a cut that's going to allow the film relief to go into an area. So in this case, I do a little something like this. And now, when I push this in, this part is no longer pulling here. So now it's much easier for me to get this in. Sometimes Tesla paint has a little bit of a hang down in here. It hangs down about 1/4 inch. So what I will pre-cut this. I will take my knife and I will leave about 1/4 inch. Like so. And this is just on the top here, but I'll heat it. I'll just kind of feed it in back behind here. And now the rest of this is really easy. So now we just kind of feed this in and around, like so. Figure it out. Okay, that's in there tucked. That's nicely tucked. All right. Let me get in here. Again, we're pushing against the top. And same kind of thing here. nice little edge on here. Just kind of feed it in this little gap. Just cut in this gap. All right. Moving right along. This area is not too bad. You get a little bit of, you want to kind of hit this little body line first, just hit it with some heat. You can almost treat this like a corner. Hit it with some heat and then work away from it. And just kind of feed it back under there. So you want to feed the film under here maybe like 1/4 of an inch before you cut, just to make sure that you get that good full coverage. Okay, so let's say this is the cutting surface. I can have my knife, I'll do it, let me see, nope, we're going to see it that way. So let's say this is the cutting surface. I can have my knife angled up, flat, or down. If you have it angled down, you're gonna leave a little bit more material to roll underneath. If you have it up, you're gonna leave the least amount of material. You may even come up short. So when I make this cut here, I'm gonna start it, then the whole time I'm gonna have my knife angled down, which is going to give me just a little bit of material to roll in here. I just like having a little bit more material here, just because we're cutting it, we're not rolling all the way down. I want to give it just a little bit, just in case something funky happens and you can see white. Alright, we're almost done, guys. Alright. Another corner right here. Basically, there's like a gap here for the film to go to. So how I do this one is I'll heat and then I pull into here so that we kind of do this wrap around the back thing that we've been doing. So heat, let this shrink. I'm just going to pull a little bit into the gap, and I'm going to use my finger to feed the material now into the gap, which is going to effectively wrap this corner for us. So you can see here now that there's this tension that was here. We now used it to wrap the back side of this corner. So we go through now, we can hit it with a little bit of heat. Cool it off. Now we can go in here and cut, and we have a perfect corner. There we go. kind of the same sort of thing here. I'm almost going to stick my blade right flush underneath this panel, and then I'm going to angle it down. So I get just enough material to wrap the bottom, but not so much where I'm having to fight it. And you see what I did there? When I got to the end, I cut at like a 45-degree angle to have this little pull tab, kind of like what we did on the hood. That's something you're going to see me do a lot. Here, when you get to the edge of this corner, you need to cut straight down, not at a 45-degree angle, because we're wrapping this over, and if we do a 45-degree angle, most likely it'll come up a tad short. Knife's getting dull. Okay. Now, if we're catching along, you know what we're going to do next. We're going to heat this. And we're going to work away from the corner and feed this in. And if we do this right, we should just perfectly grab the bottom of that, all while hiding all the white. Which it did. Okay. Now, pretty common. This is how you're going to do most wheel wells. They're relatively all the same. So here we go. We're going to kind of shrink it. And then we're going to kind of use our fingers to feed it, our thumb. And again, we're going to be working away from the corners. Getting this in here. Nice and easy. It's in there all the way. Okay. So we're going to press right against the side of the edge of the wheel well, the knife. And just really focus. You don't want to put the knife in too far, or else we're going to gouge the arch liners, I guess. Okay. Hey. I'm going to finish this cut. It's nice filming. It's actually kind of making me work a little cleaner. And think about everything here. All right. Boom! Seal it with the finger. A lot of the cuts you're going to make doing a vinyl wrap are going to be like the next one that we're going to do, where you have panels next to each other. Okay. Panels next to each other. And what you do is you cut on the opposite panel. So we're going to cut against this edge, which leaves us plenty of material to roll around underneath. So we already shaped this with our finger. We're going to go to about right here and then stop. So that gives us material up here so we can use, we want our pull tab thingy we talked about. Same thing here, I'm going to leave a little pull tab at the bottom. So I'm going to start at a 1/2 inch from the corner, and I'm just going to let my knife gently ride against this edge parallel, so I'm not cutting into the paint. That right here. Once we get to there, we just kind of pop this up, and then once it's in the air, we know we're not going to cut on the car. Just cut a little bit this way to give us our little pull tab, and that's done. Let's get down here, and that's our little pull tab here. Alright. Now we can go ahead and open this door. We'll make it easier on us. This corner is a little trickier, but we're still going to do the same sort of thing. This time I'm going to try to use my tool a little bit to kind of help get this back here the right way. And I'm going to try to shrink it. And I'm going to work away, and work away, work away, work away.
And once we feel like we've got this around, now we're just going to go ahead and cut flush with the bottom. All right. I'm going to use this. Where are we at? I'm going to use this tool. I'll put a link, something like this. This allows you to get around. Basically, I just need to get this stuck down in the back. It's a little bit more material than I'd like to have back here, but you just don't have access. Perfect. I cover the air conditioner for these first couple panels just so that it's not blowing directly into our work area. That's this right here, and then for the rest, pretty much uncovered because it gets really hot really quick. This has been an insane summer for Arizona. All right, our next challenge point is this little area right here, body line, so we want to hit that first. Just gonna warm this. And essentially I'm going to take my glove and just do a sharp rollover. So sharp rollover, straight down and in. I'm basically pushing this in and around. And then now we can just take our, now it's just business as normal. Take our glove. And this will just go in nicely. So we are 97% done. Being able to open the door here really helps. Actually get the pinky back here, so that's good to know. All right, let's finish this, finish strong. And we're gonna probably be an hour and a half on this one, but that's about what I expected. The fender takes a little bit. All right. So believe it or not, we're going to basically just do what we've done the whole time. We're going to get our pull tabs. So we're going to probably want to cut a sharp, do a sharp blade on this one. Usually if we cut on this edge, it's too much film and it doesn't stick. It will eventually come up. So this is one of these times where you're gonna kind of want to almost approximate this cut. This corner also is chunky sometimes, so it may be a little wider right here for the last little bit. So if you just cut straight across here, you come up short. So keep that in mind. So what I'll do is I'll start right about here, and I'll try to just give myself 1/3 of an inch above this edge. And I'm scoring and cutting at the same time because I want to make sure I keep on this line. And we do have tape down, so I'm not cutting the paint. Okay. We got our little pull tab. Okay, let's make our second pull tab. Gotta give credit where credit's due. The pull tab and the tape marking was taught to me by my buddy Caleb over at Fastlane Tint. So now, make sure you guys can see this. Got our pull tab here, and our pull tab here. I always forget tools, so I apologize in advance. What I'm gonna do here now is I'm gonna try to get this airbag behind the fender, and I'm gonna try to pop it out a little bit. And I remember now that it's the 3, you can't really get in here. The Y you can, the Y makes it really easy. The 3 not so much. So we're not gonna mess with that. All right. I'm trying to remember what I used in the past. Not a big deal. On a Model Y, you can use an airbag. It makes it really, really easy. Alright, we'll do the hardest one first. We're already around the back of this corner. So we want to just try to manipulate the tension. I'm just going to try to heat it real quick and see what happens. Yeah, that's actually exactly what we wanted to have happen. That shrunk perfectly. And remember, like we talked about, feed this in into this gap, and we're going to kind of work away from the corner down. And then we're going to do the same thing up here. And you can kind of feel with your fingernail and see to make sure that you've got full coverage, but you really want to spend some time on this one because this is a corner that's pretty obvious. So if you're short here, customer's going to see it, you're going to see it. Same thing with the bottom as well. It's really easy to come up short on the bottom. That's that. So now we can use our hand from the bottom, kind of push this out a little bit, get in here with our tools, really get this down in here. Right. Okay. I go back and forth on this one. Part of me thinks it might be better to do a cut and fold, but what you're gonna wanna do here, make sure you guys can see this, is I'm gonna grab on the back side of this corner. I wonder if I wanna heat this. And I'm gonna kind of heat and form it at the same time. We don't need the tape anymore. We got a little bit of extra film right here. Let's see if we can neutralize that with some heat. That's perfect. Yeah, lucky today. This went really nicely. I'll put a link to this in the description. It's basically like the same, not description, but in the tools section. So maybe this is worth mentioning, maybe not. You know, I assume at least some of you are gonna have experience, and you're gonna probably be rolling your eyes at a lot of stuff that I do, and a lot of doing the extra mile here, extra mile there. You do not have to wrap this way. You don't. You can make this much faster and probably be very happy, make other people very happy, etc. I choose to do it this way because this is the way that I would want it done if it was me. You know, you spend a couple extra minutes in places that other places don't, and you've separated yourself from the other places. So I'm gonna keep doing it this way. I put these wraps against anyone's. As far as hiding color and not having wrinkles or things like that you can see from the outside, there's essentially none of that type of stuff. So I'm okay with it taking a little bit longer. Alright, this is going to be kind of tough to film, but just like the rest of our corners we want to get in and just kind of get the bottom, the back edge of this one. Any cutting on here is very touchy because you have this rubber. So do your best to find the edge and just try to hit that rubber. Okay, let's pan out, take a look. What's that? All right, 2 panels in. Next up, door inlays.